Hello. Welcome to my walk-in closet. My name's Isaiah, and today I'm going to be talking about coronavirus. This is my third attempt at doing this. In hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have decided to talk 30 to 45 minutes without a break when I have zero experience doing this sort of thing. But anyway, yes, this is my first political video, as I just said. So I'm going to do an introduction. Feel free to skip ahead to other parts of the video. I'm going to have all my sections timestamped so that you can freely navigate the video as you please. So starting off, my name's Isaiah. I'm 22 years old, and I am most known for playing video games really good. I used to go compete at tournaments before we weren't allowed to go outside anymore. So let's see, my political affiliation, I consider myself neutral, mostly because I'm very young. There's still a lot I don't understand about how the world works, so it'd be kind of weird to affiliate with myself with any kind of group. I also consider myself a humanitarian and an environmental activist. That's what I prefer to focus on when it comes to politics. Why I'm talking politics in the first place? I feel like humanity isn't going in the best direction, and I'd like to nudge it in a better direction, if possible. My agenda for making this video, I would prefer if the coronavirus lockdown ended sooner than later. The way we do that is reducing the number of cases. Let's see, personal experience. So I had gotten this retail job back in late January. It was a fairly difficult retail job. It was my first one. And my boss was telling me that he almost didn't hire me because I only had 6 months I was only working 6 months at my previous job, and he recommended that I work a full year. And so when the pandemic hit in March, I felt like I didn't have a choice but to keep working just to have better career prospects in the future. Plus the money was good. I was very paranoid working at this job. In the beginning of the lockdown, we weren't doing any precautions or anything like that. We didn't need to wear face masks. The customers didn't need to wear face masks. We didn't even have hand soap in the bathroom for like the whole month of April, I think. Just hand sanitizer. So yes, I was very paranoid. I was going to get sick and spread it to someone else who would likely die from the virus, such as certain people that I live with, maybe my friends, because one person I live with in particular has COPD. Definitely don't want them getting it because they'll likely eat it if they catch the virus. Let's see, what else? I got laid off about less than 2 weeks ago because the business had been slow all around for the corporation. And that about sums up my experience with coronavirus so far. So I'm going to jump right into the basic information for coronavirus. Like I said, it's basic, so feel free to skip to the part that you feel like watching if you know what's up with coronavirus. Let's see. So coronavirus is a group of viruses that cause diseases in mammals and birds. Covid-19 is the new strain of coronavirus known as Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome 2, or SARS-CoV-2. This virus causes the disease coronavirus disease 19. The virus originated from Wuhan, China in December 2019, likely from a human eating a bat. Total deaths is about 850,000. I made the same mistake twice in a row. I did that last video. 850,000 people died worldwide, according to worldometers.info. Around 80% of people who are infected will recover without specialist treatment. These people may experience flu-like symptoms. However, 1 in 6 people may experience more severe symptoms, such as trouble breathing. Coronavirus spreads through tiny droplets when you exhale or cough. Infection is most likely in close contact being 6 feet. This disease is most contagious when symptoms are at their peak. Common symptoms include fever, breathlessness, dry cough, sore throat, headache, muscle pain, chills, new loss of taste or smell. Symptoms are likely to occur 2 to 14 days after exposure. The people who are most at risk are older adults, people with serious heart conditions, kidney disease, COPD, obesity. 70.2% of Americans are obese, by the way. Not obese, overweight. Sickle cell disease, weakened immune system from a solid organ transplant, or type 2 diabetes. The CDC and the WHO recommend that we wear masks. For healthy individuals, we should wear fabric face masks, preferably the double-layered, tightly woven masks. It is important to note that the neckerchief masks, the masks with vents on them, they do not help prevent the spread of the disease. However, I believe the vented masks will help prevent you from getting the disease, but it will not help anyone else. Let's see. Medical masks such as the N99 and N95 masks should be worn by healthcare workers, elderly people, people with underlying health conditions, and people who have tested positive or show symptoms. Let's see. The death toll in America is currently 168,000 dead. These are coronavirus-related deaths, so even if the person did not directly die of coronavirus 19, if they die while infected, it will be listed as a coronavirus-related death. But this does not count for the countless people suffering from permanent organ damage due to an increased strain on your organs. Because, of course, your body needs oxygen to operate. When it doesn't get enough oxygen, it has to work overtime to operate properly, which could cause problems with for people with weaker organs. Let's see. The country in second place, the closest one to us, is Brazil, which is much less equipped to handle something like coronavirus, with about 121,000 deaths compared to our 168 here in America, according to worldometer.info. Let's see. We also have ICU delirium, which is a thing we commonly know about that happens when you go under and you have to be under a breathalyzer. People experience delusions while unconscious that can last until they're out of the hospital, like weeks later. Let's see. As I said, it's a common thing, but people have said that this is sort of a delirium factory, this virus. Let's see. The causes of delirium are unknown, but is suspected to be linked to the lack of oxygen to the brain. Healthy individuals can still get sick depending on the amount of exposure to the virus. So you could have a 5-minute conversation with someone while you're walking on the sidewalk, as opposed to sitting down at a bar talking to someone for 2 hours. Just depends on the amount of exposure. Let's see. Yes, the coronavirus is dangerous because of the repercussions of millions of people getting sick all at once. Puts a huge strain on hospitals in particular, because the ICU gets filled up, and then other people with serious conditions, serious injuries, they don't have anywhere to go because the ICU is filled up with people who are suffering from coronavirus. Not to mention that hospitals are a breeding ground for disease because of how cold it is. Virus survives much better in cold conditions. The reason why the worldwide shutdown is necessary is because this new strain of COVID, this strain of COVID is new, and we don't have proper treatment or vaccine for it yet. We don't know exactly what it does. Let's see. People who get mildly sick are the ones at biggest risk for spreading the disease, because you may only experience like a bad cough or something. You go to work, you infect everybody at work, and then someone who has no business getting infected, who might potentially die, will catch it and maybe die. If you suspect you are sick, stay at home. You risk getting others sick if you go to the hospital. Yeah, if it's a mild case, your best bet is to self-quarantine to reduce the spread. Let's see. It covered the hospitals, and yes, the worldwide economic shutdown caused by the virus. It's still having a major impact on us today due to how poorly we've handled it here in the U.S. So yes, depending on where you live in the States, your shutdown could be worse or better. For example, here in Texas, it's basically like a virus never happened almost at this point. Let's see. In the eviction crisis, which is our biggest problem right now, 28 million people projected to be homeless between July and September. Not only would this be bad because it would further increase the spread of the virus with so many homeless people, it would likely be pure chaos if that many people lost their homes all at once. So we should get on that. That concludes my basic coronavirus information. I'm going to move on to how I feel about our overall response. It's not been good. Both on a government standpoint and a civilian standpoint, we have done very poorly in stopping this virus, and we have a lot of work to do to improve how we handle this sort of disaster situation in the future. Otherwise, we'll be in for a very bad time if we run into something that's even more serious than coronavirus. Government response. Let's see. President Trump is informed about the virus in January and does nothing to warn the people or prevent it. Virus hits New York, and then Donald Trump downplays the virus while the numbers are very low. He even claims to say that it's just going to disappear. Virus spreads, and Trump continues to downplay the virus. He even calls it a Democratic hoax and a China virus. He refers to it as China virus very many times. Excuse me, it's very hot in here. Trump calls hydrochloroquine, a malaria treatment medication, a game changer, which is problematic because it resulted in shortages of the medication due to patients requesting that as their treatment. Hydrochloroquine is not a game changer. It has yet to be proven to be viable in treating coronavirus. Not to mention the side effects that come with it could be problematic for some. Trump suggests injecting disinfectant into the lungs. I don't really need to explain why saying that is bad. Moving on. Trump suggests using high-powered UV light to destroy virus in the human body. Again, still bad. And then, let's see. The government shuts down too early. Excuse me, I wish they shut down too early. The government shuts down too late and then reopens too early. I believe they shut down, it was late March when they started shutting things down. And the virus had hit the U.S. Back in January. Let's see. The government has been very hesitant to help people financially, as I discussed with the large eviction rates coming soon. Let's see. COVID-19 stimulus bill, $2 trillion. Corporations received $500 billion in bailouts. Low-income civilians received $1,200 each. I believe you get an additional $500 each for each child you have. Let's see. In comparison to other first world countries, they are receiving $1,000 to $2,000 a month to help with their financial situation during the outbreak. It has been since I believe April since we received that check, and it's been 5 months since then. $1,200 in America, you'll be lucky enough if that covers 2 months of your rent, depending on where you live. Let's see. Despite corporate bailouts given to non-essential businesses, the government is dragging their feet when it comes to the USPS. USPS is currently in danger of failing. I don't need to explain why we need the postal system. Many suspect the USPS is being sabotaged to prevent people from using mail-in voting for the next election. Some would suggest that mail-in voting is not viable because that's what the president said. However, we already do our taxes online with like very little paper trail. I believe it's just the W-2 sheet, and you put that online, and you can do all of your taxes online. I don't see why we can't do voting online. Also, this is how we've been having soldiers overseas vote. So yes, it is a viable way to vote for candidates in the presidential election. Overall, the government's job is to take care of its people, and I believe that it's failed miserably so far. Moving on to the corporate America response, as I said before, corporations received a total of $500 billion, and then they turned around and laid off tons and tons of people. Amazon, the biggest corporation, one of the biggest corporations for sure, asked workers to give up their sick days to their other coworkers instead of just offering more sick days. No notable hazard paid to workers. That's likely due to the government not saying, hey, corporations, you need to pay these workers more. Corporations tend to just do what they want if they aren't told otherwise. Let's see. People end up going to work even if they are sick due to having no sick pay because they need to pay their bills. The total wealth of billionaires increased by $308 billion from March to the present day. And I believe this entire situation is a good example of why trickle-down economics doesn't work. I know that's a very controversial thing for me to say, but allow me to explain. The idea behind trickle-down economics is that if we give tax breaks to large corporations, they'll have more money to give back to their workers. But if you don't establish a rule that you need to give the money back to the workers, they'll just take the money and go. They've been doing it since Reaganomics was a thing. Many smaller businesses closed down due to no financial help. Smaller businesses that remain see significantly reduced income because people don't have money to go to businesses like that anymore. It's all essential spending only at this point for most people. Let's see, moving on to the civilian response, my favorite section of the video. We've got the grocery panic when the lockdown happened. This isn't a thing that was exclusive to the USA. This happened worldwide. People would just clean the stores out because they thought it was the end of the world, and they thought that the stores would not restock because everyone was buying everything. They failed to realize that these stores had warehouses and warehouses full of stuff. They weren't going to run out. Moving on to the coronavirus protests. Instead of following the CDC, WHO, and their recommended advice, some would go out and protest the lockdown, saying that the country needs to reopen. It's kind of sad whenever you compare the coronavirus protests to the Black Lives Matter protests. You've got people on the COVID-19 side saying, oh, this is against the Constitution. They're taking away my rights by making me stay indoors. I don't want to wear a mask. Open places up so I can go get a haircut. And then on the Black Lives Matter side, people are saying, please stop killing us. That would be very nice of you. It's just night and day. Let's see. The anti-mask groups are spreading misinformation about the masks. They're saying stuff like the government's just doing it just to see if they can. I don't see why they would do that. I'll get into that later. People are saying that it restricts your breathing. I've been talking with this thing on my face the entire time. I'm breathing just fine. It is pretty hot, I will say. I wore a cloth mask, cloth mask, just like this one, 9 hours a day during my shifts at my job. Medical professionals will wear their medical masks for 9, 10, 11, 12 hours a day. Won't experience these problems if this was a problem that would have been addressed by now. I believe we've been wearing masks since the 1960s. Let's see. It might be the 50s, actually. Maybe I should have written that down, huh? Let's see. Yeah, the whole thing with the government, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because the government already has us right where they want us, as far as like how they want civilians to live their lives. We have to work 40 hours a week just to survive in most situations. And one wrong move financially will ruin you in this country. Costs $2,000 to get a ambulance ride. I don't think they need us to wear masks to keep us where they want us to be. It's just like your ID has a number on it. Like we were all assigned a number, social security number, all of that. They can look at all of our data. It doesn't matter. They don't need us to wear masks on our face. Although they most definitely could through martial law if they wanted to, but let's not get into that right now. Let's see. Yeah, overall, I just believe that the masks are a very simple precaution, and I think that wearing them is not a difficult thing, and that we should do them just in case the professionals are correct on this one. Let's see. Yes, the civilians disregard warnings about social distancing and wearing masks given by the CDC and the WHO, most likely due to the president, defiantly not wearing masks in public places, saying that it's all BS, it's all hoax, all that stuff. And it's kind of sad to see, because if you don't trust the professionals that have worked their entire lives to give us this information, then who do you trust? The politicians, the people who keep taxing us to death, the people who only gave us $1,200 to survive for 5 months now. I just don't think they have our best interests at heart. And another thing is, if these scientists are being paid off to say this stuff, I can think of much better ways to live a dishonest life. You have to spend almost a decade of your life in medical school just to reach that point, just so you can disregard the Hippocratic Oath and lie to people for what? To get out of debt? Like, I don't even want to think about the amount of debt you get into going into medical school. It's got to be about 100,000 or so. Moving on. Let's see. Plandemic. I'm not well equipped enough to talk about plandemic. That's not really what this video is about. But I will say that I don't think it was manufactured in a lab. I don't see the logic in shutting down the world economy unless we're trying to do a population control thing. Anti-vaccination groups. Yeah, I'll go ahead and talk about vaccines really quick. Let me go off on a tangent, because that's all I do is go off on tangents anyway. Let's see. I kind of look at taking a vaccine as like getting into a planned fight versus getting jumped in an alley, which would just be getting infected randomly. Vaccines, they're made to imitate the virus that you're supposed to be getting immunity to. So your body will have an easy time fighting it and develop the antibodies to fight that disease. That's the idea anyway. It's not an exact science. I believe they work about 40% of the time. And yes, you can get sick from vaccines. If that happens, you generally won't get that sick, and after that point you will be immune to that particular disease. Let's see. I believe that's all I had to say. Yeah, it's just safer to take the vaccine and potentially get a little sick rather than getting exposed by some unknown element and potentially getting really, really sick. And yeah, that's the idea behind everybody taking vaccines, because some people are so immunocompromised that they can't even take the vaccines. Any amount of exposure might end up killing them. That's why most people need to take them, so that they don't get mildly sick and then spread it to other people who may end up being killed by the said virus or disease. Let's see. I went over the government taking our freedom. Yeah, it's a shame we have no freedom. That sucks. I'm sorry, I'll stop being a smart aleck. People getting distracted by stuff like Black Lives Matter, child trafficking. I see a lot of stuff about child trafficking nowadays. Feels like a bit of a psyop, I'm not gonna lie. But we gotta focus on one thing at a time here. Like, I understand the elites are made up of a bunch of pedophiles, I get it. But the thing is that if we don't take care of the coronavirus first, we're not going to be able to properly investigate these people. We're talking about the most powerful people on the planet, and we want to go investigate and put them in jail. It's not going to work very well if the investigators are running around worried about catching a virus, you know? So yeah, we need to stay focused and unite against one problem at a time so that we can actually get things done rather than just argue about it until eternity. Let's see. We got massive gatherings, including Trump's 4th of July celebration. I'm not gonna lie, it looked like a pretty fun party, but yeah, there was no social distancing. Nobody was wearing masks at this celebration. Yeah, we've seen this happen several times. The holiday comes around, people come out in droves to the beaches, anywhere they can go. Spring break was a disaster, etc., etc. In which segues into my next point, where younger adults are the main culprit for spreading this virus because they're all going out to parties and getting infected that way and continuing to spread it to others. Older people, not so much. They've heeded the warnings for the most part. Some would argue that the economy is more important than stopping the spread of the disease. The loss of human life considered an acceptable loss. And for that, all I have to say is to the immunocompromised people, the people who may end up getting sick, like deathly sick, you need to stay indoors because these people don't care about you. Moving on, my last thing I want to say is on the civilian response side of things, business owners don't really have a choice but to reopen in order for their business to stay alive because the bills don't stop coming, unfortunately, and the government's not going to do anything about those bills. So regardless of what your political take is, you need to stay open if you want to continue to exist, basically. All right, I think that's about it. I can move on to proposed solution to our problem here. The obvious part of the solution that everybody's aware of at this point, a total countrywide shutdown of 30 to 60 days. And I don't mean like keep the restaurants open, keep the grocery stores open. I mean complete shutdown. Of course, we need to give people time to prepare for something like that. 30 to 60 days is a long time for something like that. This is what other countries did, by the way. But yeah, people need time to prepare. I'd say 30 to 45 days is more than enough time to get everything that you need to prepare to stay in your home for that long. And what this will do is it'll bring down the infection rate to almost nothing, and we can continue on about our lives like the rest of the countries have at this point. Let's see. And I believe that those who know better need to speak up. If you see someone not wearing a mask, you need to go out of your way and tell them, hey, we gotta stop the spread of this pandemic. Could you please wear a mask? I understand confrontation is scary. I understand that very well, trust me. Especially if you're working and your business doesn't care about it that much, I understand. But whenever you can, you should go out of your way to tell these people, hey, we gotta put the masks on. You know, I'm a very strong believer in the ripple effect. You know, a positive thing that you do causes more positive things to happen. And I believe that's what we need to strive to do. And not only for masks, but just in general. The vocal minority in this country is very, very loud, and I feel like people who do know better do not speak up nearly enough as they should. Let's see. I believe we should pressure local government into recognizing the virus as the threat that it is. This could be your city government, your state government. Here in Texas, we're not taking this seriously at all. We're lucky because everything is so spread out. We would be a lot worse off if it weren't. But yeah, it's like a normal day here in Texas. We don't do a whole lot. I remember Texas had a state mandated masks, you needed to wear masks to be in most places. And the cops would fine you like $250 if you weren't wearing one. But here in my city, the cops haven't fined anyone, and these people aren't walking around with masks on. I can tell you that much. There's like a handful of people in every place I go to that just aren't wearing masks. Workers behind counters not wearing masks. Let's see. And we need to establish emergency universal basic income for people struggling financially, and tax the ultra wealthy to pay for it, because they can afford to pay for it. Trust me. And we need to also forgive rent debt, and we're going to tax the billionaires to do that too. You're going to learn pretty quick that my solution to a lot of problems is to tax the billionaires, because they've got the resources to handle a lot of situations that we're dealing with on the planet right now. That's about the end of it. I believe I forgot to mention something. What was it? Oh yes, the most damning evidence that you need to see to like recognize that this is a serious issue is that there aren't any countries that want us anymore. Like, we can only travel to about 20 countries in the world, or less than 20 actually, sorry. And traveling to those places, it's not a no strings attached affair. Like, you have to take a ton of precautions just to go in and out of the country now. And it's going to remain that way until we get the infection rate down. If you don't believe anything, believe in that, you know? So yeah, that's the end of the video. I want to take this time to talk about, I want to rant a little bit about our current political situation that we're in, the November election, all that stuff. I wanted to talk about the Democrats versus Republicans situation, and how I think it's extremely inefficient as far as getting things done in the country. So what I see the two parties as is a bunch of individuals trying to get power in any way they can by pandering to groups of people with their policies from their parties. And essentially what it is they're all fighting for a position to do the bidding of the ultra wealthy. That's all it is. At least that's how I feel it's all it is. It could be a lot different. I'm not an all-knowing God or anything like that. That's just my perspective. One thing I know for sure is that Donald Trump is completely incompetent, and he's mishandled this situation pretty badly. Mishandled is a bit of an understatement, if I'm being honest. 168,000 people dead isn't exactly a good job. And I understand not wanting to vote for Biden. Republicans, you gotta understand that your current president is not very good. But you don't want to vote for Biden because he's a creep, or he's senile, or he's got rape allegations. I get it. So why don't we just vote for JoJo, the liberal? Because hear me out. So, liberals are scary. I get it. They have what both parties consider radical ideas. But the thing about a liberal being president is that she's not going to get very much done while she's in office. Like, they're going to fight with her every step of the way, regardless of what she tries to do in both branches of government will, I mean. And even if she signs executive orders, the next Democrat or Republican president can just erase everything that she's done, much like Trump has done with Obama's bills and orders. And overall, I don't even think it would be that bad of a change. Like, we've been doing Democrat president, Republican president for a very long time, and it's not working out too well. I think what we need is a change of pace. We need more presidential parties, more political parties to diversify our perspectives and ideas. We need to bounce off of each other a little more, stop arguing as much, and actually come to a compromise in our ideology so that we can actually get something done for once. I think that's it. I think that's everything I had to say. Thank you for listening. This has been very stressful, and I worked very hard on this, and I appreciate you all sticking around to hear me rant in my walk-in closet that is very, very hot. I'm gonna take this mask off now. I think I've proven my point about the oxygen thing. Oops. Stay tuned next week. Not next week. It's not happening next week. I'm not that efficient. Next month, when I talk about Black Lives Matter, and I might even do a special stream for it in the near the end of next month as well. But yes, thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. See you later.